Shwmai, croeso, Bobs yma, wpla bob I hog to baby I chi. Rydw I yn yfed 2 baned o de. Okay, I'm drinking 2 cups of tea. Cardiff City. A Cardiff City in Union Park. Pam, why? Pam, why? Pam, why? Oherwydd un Cardiff City sydd, Dinas Caerdydd, yr adar gleision, the Bluebirds. Ond, un Genesis sydd hefyd. Ond, dyma Genesis o'r 70au. Ni'n gwybod beth hwnna'n digwydd. Oh, I can't find the... Oh, dear. Right, so what I'm going to do is try to speak in both languages. And what I'm trying to do is discuss, not in a systematic, internal, meditative manner, but in a logistical, data-centric manner, responding ymateb i'r albums dwi'n gweld. We'll start off with the first one. There's 2 Genesises, one with Phil Collins singing, one with Peter Gabriel, but really there's one. There's 2 Cardiff City mugs here. The Union Park one. And the Vincent Tan one. And they're both fine. First album, 1973, Selling England by the Pound. Now, as I've discussed already on the first Genesis Do Bobsy video, I failed to get through the whole discography because I got sidetracked by various topics. So this is a data-centric approach. I'm giving this album, let's just say it's grown on me significantly because of the production values. At the time when I first heard it, they paled into insignificance compared to Seconds Out. Now, I'll tell you a story. I've just listened to a track and a half of side 2 of Seconds Out, and even though I loved it, I noticed weaknesses. So it's not infallible. So with this, I've heard Phil Collins drumming on various... I haven't got any other versions, only the original album. And I never really took to it because of its lack of dynamism. Although I loved the Battle of Epping Forest because that was the one that didn't appear on Seconds Out, you see. I know what I like, Seconds Out, hands down. Dancing in the Moonlit Night, I've always thought of it as ham-fisted. For the 5th, I've heard it on this since, in the digital age, and I've wondered, wow, how incredible. And who can forget JP, just JP, who can forget you listening to Further Fifth from this album and sweating buckets because he'd never heard anything so impressive in all his life. So the cinema show on Seconds Out is better than the cinema show on this. But then again, you hear the cinema show in its entirety on this and you think, wow, that's brilliant. The Battle of Epping Forest is a classic, so I'm going to up my mark for this. After the Ordeal is good, it's a bit boring, and Isle of Plenty is a waste of time. More Fool Me, it was quaint, very novel at the time, because you thought, oh, that's Phil singing. So what do? How much do we give this? I'm still not, the Dancing with the Moon at Night, although it's brilliant, it's too kind of, I don't know, bitty. It's as if they're trying to do a yes. So I Know What I Like, I heard as a single apart from this album, so it's never been a part of this album. So in general, I give it a lower mark. I'm going to give it 68%. I know that's ridiculous, I know, but as an album, I'm giving it 68%. Come back to me. Come back to me. Here we go. 1974, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. What can you tell me about this album? Well, if you've told me that it was inspired by a dodgy film, I wouldn't have believed you, because I thought it was inspired by Pilgrim's Progress. But the dodgy film elements are combined, aren't they? So it's put me off this a bit because of its dodginess. But I've always loved it, the music, that is. But I've always thought that it's no, I've always loved it. There's no weaknesses to this. It's absolutely brilliant. And I love side 3 and 4. People tell me now, look at now, Chamber of 32 Doors closes side 2. Lily White Lilith, okay, there's some dodgy lyrics there for, if you're going to consider the spiritual battles involved. The Waiting Room, now I find that a letdown, especially when you hear live versions of the jams that they had. It's compared to the live jam highlight, that is a bit disappointing. Anyway is great. Here Comes the Supernatural Anaesthetist. The Lamia is good, but it should be better in terms of dynamics. So side 3, I agree, is weaker. Counting Out Time is a weak single. Carpet Crawl has been brought up as a live classic, and I don't know, I'm looking at this now back in NYC. It would be a better single album, wouldn't it? It would be a better single album. So I've just persuaded myself I'm going to give it 69, excuse the pun, percent. There we are, because side 1 and side 4 are incredible. And Anyway is brilliant. Oh, I've just talked myself into a downer. There we are. That's what you get. Honest appraisals, honest reactions, honest data. Now then, if you told me this was the first Genesis album I heard from 1971, this is Nursery Crime. Now then, I heard Seven Stones about 12 years ago on the web, on YouTube, with a little video going with it, and I realised, wow, what a undiscovered or an ignored gem that was. And you find that with the rest of the album. The Harlequins and the For Absent Friends, what a song. So beautiful. Fountain of Salmacis is the ultimate epic. I don't know whether the live version on Genesis Live is better or worse. I think it could be better. So I'm not going to mark this down. I'm giving this, the musical box, I have yet to see. Well, I've heard it a couple of times recently, and I thought, oh yeah, it's better than I used to think it was. So you've got the other classic on this is Harold the Barrel, which is a perfect pop song. And you've got the Return of the Giant Hogweed, which is the first Genesis song that I freaked out to, along with Harold the Barrel. So you've got two major classics, slightly overrated classic. So I'm going to give this 78%. Did you hear that? 78%. The production is a bit muddy, but the playing is great. So 78%. Have I made a rod for my own back here now? Will anything improve on this, and that makes Genesis unable to achieve 90%? We shall see. We shall see. Trick of the Tail again lives in the shadow of Seconds Out. Lives in the shadows of Seconds Out, because that's the one I heard first. So when you heard the clumsiness of Robbery, Assault and Battery, you thought, no, that's not funky enough. The one on Seconds Out is still funky. I've heard funkier versions of Robbery, Assault and Battery on the web. Really funky ones. However, Los Endos sounds a bit ponderous in parts. You know, I believe that Phil got it right when he said Steve was a bit stiff. Steve was a bit stiff. And on those certain albums, live he flowed with that extra echoey and reverb techniques. But in the studio he felt a bit compressed and definitely mixed down, of course. Don't talk to us about Steve on Seconds Out. When you hear other bootlegs, there's no comparison. He was definitely mixed out on Seconds Out. So, what do we make of this album? Entangled. I don't know, you got the Hackett lyrics then, who are a bit ham-fisted, aren't they? Tony Banks's lyrics are a bit ham-fisted as well. I know it's a classic album, but this is within Genesis perspective now, okay? You've got to understand this. I mean, every Genesis album is at 90% compared to the other artists in the world. But within the Genesis discography, how much does this deserve? Ripples is probably the most beautiful thing they ever recorded. Possibly. Madman Moon. It's a bit kind of ploddy, isn't it? In the middle. And the Collins vocal is yet to develop its full emotional, impactful resonance. He sounds a bit kind of, I'm trying to be a public school boy, but I can't be one. What else have we missed? What else have we missed? Trick of the Tail, the title track is pop. Pure pop. But it's not as bad, of course. I know, it's wonderful. I love it. It was really happy-go-lucky sing-along stuff. Have I missed one? Squonk. Now, Squonk live is fantastic. This, it does it rock? Rutherford says it rocks. It doesn't rock. It kind of bangs, doesn't it? Squonk bangs, but it doesn't rock. You know, when Colin says that it's like Led Zeppelin, no, it's not at all. Not to these ears, anyway. I'll have to maybe listen to this to see whether it rocks. Anything else? No, I think we've covered it all. Dance on a Volcano, of course. I don't like the ending of Dance on a Volcano. It's too frantic and Hackett going on in a cul-de-sac. So, it's because the ending wasn't on Seconds Out. When I heard it in on this, you know, after buying this, I thought, oh, that's a bit kind of disjointed and it's not as melodic as it should be. There we are. I'm giving this, what did I give Nursery Crime? I gave it 78. I'm giving this, it's not as good as The Lamb, is it? Even though The Lamb is too long. No, it's not as good as The Lamb, and it's not as good as, it's better than Selling England. Is it? I'm going to give it 68%. There's something not quite right with it. Okay, here we go. This is a live album, Genesis. 3 sides live. Well, how much am I going to give this? Well, I haven't really. It's only now I'm appreciating it. When it came out, I was bored with Genesis. Slightly. So when you hear me and Sarah Jane live, you realise, wow, They really knocked that one out of the park, but at the time you were thinking, oh, it's ponderous, but it is so brilliant. I love it. Dodo, what a classic track that is. But not, unfortunately, on this one. There are funkier versions. Turn It On Again, I think we've all suffered, haven't we? Please, don't turn it on again. But it was a great track. Abacab, great track. Live tracks. Duchess, brilliant. But I'd like to hear this one again. Phil Collins, stop shouting, Phil. Stop shouting. Follow Me live. What a beautiful song that is live. Especially when Phil sits behind the drum kit. He doesn't do it on this. When he sits behind the drum kit and drums and sings, the guy's an absolute gem. Afterglow. Misunderstanding. I loved the bit when he used to go, I loved that because it was different. He made it live. But it's pretty, middle of the road, isn't it? In the Cage. But I like the contrast between In the Cage, medley, cinema show, Slipper Men. That's wonderful. I think I've seen a video on the phone recently. Afterglow. Look at that. That is Afterglow, isn't it? That is Afterglow. You've just seen it there. Or is that Watcher of the Skies? I'm not sure. So on side 4 you got One for the Vine, which is a fantastic crisp version. Was that from the 81 tour? 80 tour? Oh no, 81. No, 80. Okay. And you've got Fountain of Salmacis on this again. And you got It, Watch of the Skies. Because this is the Welsh version, not the American version. Because of those 3 tracks on It live is just so brilliant. So you got, I'm going to give this a high mark, even though Turn It On Again, Dodo and Abacab were initially laborious. I think if you just take a step back and assess this, I think you've got to give this 80%, haven't you? You've got to give it 80% because of the breadth of material on the record. It's not a classic. It's not as good as Seconds Out by any means, but it's still top stuff. Diane, 80%. So that's in the lead. That's a dark horse getting into the lead. Oh, Boschbach, what's this? This is the first Genesis studio album I bought upon its release. Hold on, I need a cup of tea. How much will I give this? Come back for part 2 of the Genesis Data Overload. That's what it's called. Thank you very much.